How's it going, everyone? Sorry for my destroying 5,000 today. It's July 21st, 2021, and today we're going to focus on our next potential tropical cyclone that could form very close to our homeland, the United States. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather icons. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather icons. So let's begin by taking a look at the current IR loop, the current IR satellite imagery, and you see that we do have a lot of convection occurring along this weakening frontal boundary that's currently moving towards the east at this point. However, the feature we are going to focus on is this feature that's currently centered right around Alabama and Georgia, where we do see some thunderstorm activity and a broad low pressure system associated with this weakening frontal boundary moving eastward. As this does, once it heads over into the Atlantic Ocean, it does have a good chance of formation just off the coast of somewhere in the southeast states such as South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, and that's certainly something we need to keep watch. Taking a look at the low pressure system right now, you see, of course, there isn't a lot of convection going on. We do see a little bit of convection on the eastern side. However, of course, since this low pressure system is over land, we won't see a huge blow up of convection unless there's a very strong baroclinic influence over it or just a lot of instability. And of course, during the summer months or when the jet stream is very straightened out like it is right here, we aren't seeing a lot of convection associated with this low pressure system as of right now. As you see, majority of the convection is more further northward where the jet stream is, the dip is a little bit more noticeable, and we're seeing that cold air attempt to filter in to that warmer air currently over the Gulf Stream at this time, and that's creating a lot of thunderstorm activity along this frontal boundary. However, where the low pressure system is currently located, the jet stream is too straightened out for a lot of convection to get going. However, that is expected to change once it heads over into the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere just off the coast of Florida and Georgia. In terms of the current chance that this storm forms in the middle of the Atlantic, let me go full screen here. You're going to see that the chance is still, the good news is it's still currently low at 48%. Within 48 hours, it's only 0% chance of formation. However, within the next 5 days, the chance does increase to 20%. So it could be another one of those scenarios where maybe the chance increases once the computer models and National Hurricane Center gains confidence that later in the future we will see more conducive environment for this to form. But this is a little concerning because of how close it is to the mainland United States, where it's literally hugging the coast of the southeast. And even if this doesn't develop, we could see enhanced rainfall associated with this, or maybe an enhanced rip current risk. And unfortunately, rip currents are one of the leading causes of death, weather-related deaths in the United States, and it's sad because it's something that could easily be avoidable. So this is certainly something we need to keep in mind of, even if this doesn't exactly form into tropical storm Fred, but we certainly still have a possibility that this does could eventually form into tropical storm Fred. Take a look at the current sea surface temperatures for the area where development could be possible. You see that the sea surface temperatures are more than warm enough to support tropical cyclone development. You see temperatures hovering around the 28 to 29 degrees Celsius range at this point, which is, I'd say, close to the mid 80s, 80-degree water temperature when it comes to Fahrenheit. So as a result, there is more than enough heat energy. There's more than enough latent heat for this hurricane or tropical cyclone to absorb. So we certainly need to keep in watch of that, and what sea surface temperatures will not be the issue when it comes to this storm developing. Maybe if it moves further northward, maybe if it potentially moves just north of the Gulf Stream where the sea surface temperatures drastically drop more into the mid 70-degree range. However, for one thing is that that storms could be able to at least maintain strength even if the temperature is below 80 degrees. It might still be weakening, but it won't weaken as fast because while 75-degree water isn't considered sufficient enough for tropical cyclone development, for some tropical cyclones, it could be just there could be just enough latent heat it could absorb off of 75-degree water to continue developing or at least slow down the weakening. So even if this does move just north of the Gulf Stream, there could still be a chance it maintains its strength. But again, we first need to worry about whether this develops or not into any sort of tropical cyclone. And currently, the good news is that the chance is low. Taking a look at the GFS model over the next several hours, you see that this is how it's looking right now. We do have that frontal boundary draped along the western Atlantic at this time, bringing a lot of thunderstorm activity just to the northwest of Bermuda. And we, of course, see that broad low pressure system bringing some thunderstorm activity, but not much thunderstorm activity to the southeast. But if we continue to move forward, headed into 30 hours from now to the 36-hour mark, and eventually around the 48-hour mark, just around 2 days from now, we see a little bit of a broad low pressure system form just off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina at this time. And we could see a chance of convection right over here because not only will this low pressure be over fairly warm waters, it might get a little bit of help from this jet stream dip where we could maybe see a little bit of baroclinic influences help this storm and a little bit of instability help this storm. So there is a possibility that a storm may not be considered fully tropical if this does form, as I wouldn't be surprised if this does form into a subtropical storm if it ever does form, which I'll make it clear that currently that chance is low. But if it does form, I wouldn't be surprised if it's considered subtropical. But if we continue to move forward, you see that the thunderstorm activity moves further southward. So Florida, you might need to watch out for some enhanced thunderstorm and rain shower activity. And if we continue to move forward, you see that the low pressure sort of lingers over on Florida, but then eventually moves out into the open Atlantic as another trough moves through, and it steers it pretty much out to sea once we see this next trough that's gonna come through. That's gonna bring that jet stream just far south enough to pull this storm away out to sea, and you see that the low pressure system sort of just moves out or jumps into several different areas and sort of just gets absorbed by this frontal boundary and this jet stream dip eventually. However, there is that chance that this ridge that's located in this area could maybe linger this storm over the same area for a little bit longer, and that's a concern that it might stay over the same area for a very long time. Taking a look at taking a look at the wind shear forecast when it comes to this storm to see if this does have a good chance of developing based off of the upper level winds. And you see that we do have a little bit of an upper level high located in the northern Gulf of Mexico at this point, and we see a pretty big trough moving through the United States, and that's bringing a lot of wind shear throughout the East Coast for the most part. And where this low pressure system is located, however, the wind shear is certainly over this low pressure system, but I wouldn't say it's extremely strong to a point where it can't handle this wind shear, because you see as we continue to move forward, there might be a little bit of a chance as the storm moves further southward to where this storm could develop, because you see just south of, I'd say, South Carolina, the wind shear becomes relatively light. So this could be an open opportunity for this storm to maybe form just off the coast of Florida or Georgia, as that's certainly something we need to keep a close eye on, because the wind shear, depending on how far south or how far north it is, could play a big role in if this storm develops or not. So we need to keep a close eye on that. And however, the GFS model is more lenient on sort of steering, bringing the storm out to sea quicker than what the European model is saying, which I'll show you guys in just 1 second. But taking a look at the dry air, this will be another thing the storm will have to contend with, because there's going to be quite a bit of dry air, which isn't surprising because this storm is currently associated with frontal boundary, and of course, behind the frontal boundary, we're seeing a lot cooler temperatures, more stable air, and as a result, more dry air on the back side of it. So as this moves further southward, you're going to see that as this frontal boundary moves east, we're going to see dry. It's going to leave a decent amount of dry air on the backside, and we're seeing currently a lot of dry air in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean at this time on the southern side. And it's like I talked about yesterday that we're going to see the Saharan dust eventually move westward. And while I don't think it'll be a huge factor in bringing dry air into the storm, the storm will have to contend with the more drier than typical conditions in the Gulf of Mexico at this point because we're currently in a positive NJO and the air is a lot more stable during pattern like that. And you see that as the storm moves southward, the dry air will still remain on this storm, especially on the northward side. And as the next trough moves through, you're as this trough moves through, you're gonna see that this ridge that is gonna bring strong northerly winds and bring that dry air further southward. So this is another thing that the storm will have to contend with. However, I think it still could handle it because it, like I said it isn't a ton of dry air, but there's still dry air. So depending on how the storm handles the dry air, it'll play a big role in whether this develops or not. And taking a look at what the European model is saying right now, I think the European model is a little bit more lenient on bringing some sort of developing tropical cyclone. Taking a look at the precipitation map, you're going to see that if we move forward, um, only around 2 days from now, you're going to see that we're going to see more enhanced thunderstorm activity just off the coast of the southeast at this time. And moving forward, you see that the European model is bringing a slightly stronger storm just off the coast of Florida right around 3 days from now, July 24th. Moving forward, you see that the storm lingers over the same area for the most part as it doesn't expect the frontal boundary to really steer the storm out to sea. And there's going to be a little bit of actually a blocking sort of pattern where this ridge is going to try to steer it closer to the United States while we're gonna see the troughs try to steer more out to sea. But eventually we do see this storm move out to sea, but it's gonna be very very slow. The European I'd say isn't really developing this into a tropical storm either, but it's a little bit more stronger than the GFS model, and it's more lenient on making this storm linger just off the southeast coast and then eventually moving out to sea into the northeast. So this is something certainly we need to keep in mind. Typically, the European model is slightly better when it comes to forecasting tropical cyclones, but again, the GFS model and the European model are both very reliable when it comes to their forecast. So we still need to take the European model with a grain of salt, but still, we certainly need to keep a close eye on both the computer models over the next several days, as there could be a chance of development, especially if the European model case is more correct, where it sort of lingers this storm just off the coast of the southeast just a little longer to where it'll be over water a little bit longer, and we could see and it'll deal with less wind shear if the steering flow is very weak in this region. So that's certainly something we need to keep in mind. And taking a look at the Futurecast radar over the next 3 days to see what to expect when it comes to convection associated with the low pressure system. The low pressure system is currently located right between Mississippi and Alabama at this time, and we do see a little bit of thunderstorm activity. However, we begin to see a little bit more enhanced thunderstorm activity closer to Georgia and South Carolina. It isn't a ton of thunderstorm activity, but it's certainly noticeable. And then you see that on Friday, we see a lot more convection in the Atlantic Ocean as a result of this low pressure system, and we see more thunderstorm activity towards Florida. So that's certainly something we need to keep in mind. Rainfall could be the issue if this does develop and if it lingers over the coast over several days. So that's certainly something we need to keep in mind. Even if this doesn't develop into Tropical Storm Fred, we could see more rain shower activity. Taking a look at the forecasted rainfall over the next 5 days, you see that Florida is currently expecting nearly 2 to 3 inches of rain, especially towards southern Florida, closer to West Palm Beach. Miami is getting involved, Fort Lauderdale, and just south of Daytona Beach is also forecasting over 2 inches of rain. And you see that we're seeing a lot of the rainfall occur just off the coast as a result of this frontal boundary moving through. So Florida certainly needs to keep a close eye on this, and even those further northward, we could maybe see that low pressure system sneak its way northward as this next trough moves through next week, and we could see it move northward and maybe bring some more rain to the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic. So certainly something we need to keep in mind, but it's the forecast remains still uncertain, and currently the forecast is that has a low chance of developing, but whether this develops or not, you should expect pretty heavy rain in Florida for the next 5 days. So keep that in mind. In terms of my current forecasts, um, we're gonna see that the low pressure system is I'm expecting it to move further northward and take a steep turn into the east as this next trough moves through. And we could see maybe more impacts towards the Carolinas, where we could see maybe more enhanced rain showers, and we could see and we could see more thunderstorm activity. So we certainly need to keep that in mind all along the East Coast for the next week. So yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. I hope you guys have a good day.